Welcome to the Kingdom of Goshen, a prophetic sanctuary for the remnant with the spirit of Elijah, leading and building the new underground railroad worldwide. For generations, prayer has been seen as a spiritual act. But today, neuroscience, psychology, and medicine are uncovering what people of faith have always known. Prayer doesn't just change situations. It changes the brain, the body, and the spirit. In the last 25 years, scientists have studied brain scans of people during prayer and worship. Dr. Andrew Newberg, a neuroscientist from the University of Pennsylvania, used functional MRI scans to study what happens inside the brain during deep prayer. He found that during prayer, the frontal lobe, the center of focus, reasoning, and decision-making, becomes highly active. At the same time, the parietal lobe, which orients you in space and separates you from the world, becomes less active. That's why prayer often brings a sense of unity and closeness to God. People often describe it as losing themselves in God's presence. Scientifically, it's the brain's awareness of self becoming quiet, so that connection and peace can take over. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." That verse isn't just poetic, it's neurological truth. When you quiet your mind in prayer, your brain literally shifts into a peaceful, balanced state. Prayer also affects the amygdala, the part of the brain that processes fear, anger, and anxiety. Dr. Newberg discovered that during prayer, activity in the amygdala decreases significantly. This means that prayer physically calms your fear response, helping you to react with faith instead of panic. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." That perfect peace comes as both a spiritual promise and a measurable brain response. In one Harvard Medical School study, people who practiced daily prayer or meditation for 8 weeks showed reduced stress hormones and lower blood pressure. Their genes associated with inflammation also quieted down. That means prayer changes you at the cellular level. When you pray regularly, you strengthen neural pathways that promote peace, gratitude, and trust. This process is called neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself through repeated thought patterns. Over time, your brain begins to default to faith instead of fear, calm instead of chaos. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's exactly what prayer does. It renews your brain, one thought, one prayer, one moment of faith at a time. Researchers at Baylor University found that people who see God as loving and caring experience less anxiety and more emotional stability. Those who see God as distant or punitive tend to have higher stress levels. This means your relationship with God, how you talk to Him and perceive Him, can directly impact your brain's chemistry and emotional health. 1 John 4:18 says, "Perfect love casts out fear." When you pray with the awareness of God's love, your brain literally releases the chemicals that dissolve fear. Prayer also boosts neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals that antidepressants target. When you pray with gratitude, hope, and surrender, your brain's reward system activates. Philippians 4:4 says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." And again I say, rejoice. Joyful prayer floods your brain with positive chemicals that improve mood, focus, and energy. Studies from the University of Wisconsin and Duke University show that people who pray or worship regularly have stronger immune systems and recover faster from illness. Prayer triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, which slows the heart rate, deepens breathing, and allows the body to heal. James 5:16 says, "The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective." Science now shows that prayer's power extends not just spiritually, but physically. Researchers studying heart surgery patients found that those who were prayed for had fewer complications and felt calmer before and after their operations. Even when the patients didn't know someone was praying, their stress levels and recovery improved. Prayer transcends distance because it works beyond what the human mind can measure. Prayer also improves memory and focus. In studies where subjects practiced prayer or worship for 20 minutes a day, MRI scans showed increased thickness in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and self-control. This means prayer actually strengthens your ability to think clearly and make wise choices. Proverbs 2:6 says, "For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding." Prayer tunes your brain to wisdom itself. Long-term prayer habits are linked to lower rates of depression and addiction. In 2022, a University of Missouri study showed that people who engaged in daily prayer had 40% fewer depressive symptoms. It appears that prayer activates the brain's hope circuits, regions that help people endure hardship and maintain purpose. Psalm 34:17 says, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles." When you cry out to God, you activate the neural pathways of faith and hope, strengthening your emotional endurance. Prayer also teaches forgiveness, and forgiveness has measurable health effects. When people prayed blessings over those who wronged them, researchers found lower heart rates, reduced blood pressure, and decreased activity in the limbic system. Unforgiveness keeps your brain and body in stress mode. Prayer releases it. Ephesians 4:31-32 says, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger. Be kind and compassionate, forgiving one another, just as God in Christ forgave you." Forgiveness through prayer heals the mind as much as the soul. In addition, scientists found that prayer increases activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the region involved in empathy, compassion, and moral decision-making. People who pray regularly are more likely to show kindness and patience. Jesus said in Luke 6:28, "Bless those who curse you, and pray for those who mistreat you." That kind of prayer reshapes your brain toward compassion instead of retaliation. Prayer even influences how long you live. A Harvard study found that those who prayed or attended church weekly were 33% less likely to die early than those who didn't. They also had better overall well-being and stronger social connections. Prayer doesn't just add years to your life. It adds life to your years. Proverbs 3:7-8 says, "Fear the Lord and shun evil." This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Prayer is one of the ways we live that truth. Gratitude in prayer is another key to mental strength. Neuroscientists at the University of California found that people who practiced thankful prayer daily had more activity in the brain's reward centers and reported 25% higher levels of happiness. Gratitude in prayer turns survival into peace and fear into faith. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." When you combine prayer with gratitude, Your brain creates new pathways that focus on hope and abundance instead of scarcity and despair. Even your genes respond to prayer. Harvard's Benson Henry Institute found that prayer activates genes linked to immune function and energy, while turning off genes related to inflammation and stress. In other words, prayer changes your body's chemistry at the DNA level. Psalm 139:14 says, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Prayer aligns your biology with that truth. Science can measure how prayer works through brain scans, hormone levels, and neural activity, but only faith can explain why it works. Prayer was built into the design of the human brain as a connection point with the Creator. It's both divine and biological. Prayer brings calm to chaos, order to confusion, and healing to the brokenhearted. It strengthens the mind, cleanses the emotions, and renews the body. Isaiah 40:31 says, "Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." Every prayer you pray reshapes the brain to expect peace instead of panic, faith instead of fear, strength instead of surrender. Science calls it neuroplasticity. The Bible calls it renewal. Both point to the same truth, that prayer has power beyond what we see. Pray often, pray honestly, pray with faith and thanksgiving, because every time you do, you're not only speaking to God, you're healing your mind, your body, and your soul. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," and that strength starts in prayer. Join us on Patreon. The link is in the description and the comments. We are growing all-women communities, communities for families, and so much more, all off-grid, self-sustainable, and protected by the Most High God. Yahweh. We have land as low as $0 down and $50 a month all over the United States with no credit check. Meaning your past does not define your future, and you can still get your family to safety. We have resources that show you how to start a homestead from scratch. Imagine living with your family and friends in a community supporting one another in love and peace. This can be your future, but you must act immediately. Time is running out, and it's time to grow your own food, control your water supply, and dominate your own power grid. Thank you so much for being here today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.